Okay, Jim, introduce your meeting.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Apologies a million times over. My name is Jim Stein. I'm the chair of the Rec and Park Committee, Lake Balboa Neighborhood Council. It's 7:25. If it's okay with everyone, we can do introductions now. Again, my name's Jim Stein. You want to go around the board? Everybody's board's different than mine. How about you, Katie?
I'll go next. Yeah, I'm Katie Cronin. Hi, and I'm really happy to be here on this committee today.
Barbara?
Hi there. I'm here. Yes, I'm Barbara Heidemann with San Fernando Valley Audubon Society. I got on the agenda to talk, I think, about goat herding. I'm substituting for Muriel Coton, who is on vacation. And the agenda identified me as part of the RCD, the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains. I do sometimes work for them, but tonight I'm wearing my San Fernando Valley Audubon Society hat.
Thank you, and I'm sorry, I apologize for that mistake. George?
Hello.
You're muted.
Hello, I'm George Waddell. I'm with the California Native Plant Society and a group of people called the Saturday Weeders and the Dawn Patrol that have been weeding in the wildlife area in Sepulveda Basin for the last 10 or 15 years. And I'm here to talk about goats.
Thank you. And Miriam et al.
Hi, I'm Miriam with the Friends of the Sepulveda Basin Dog Park group, and this is Donna Suskin, and she's one of our members, and Tara Lieberstein, that you know, Barbie Toussaint, that's my life, who's a park patron, Trudy, who is Schoolhouse, who is one of our board members, and Katie, who's a new board member. She's our new secretary, and her husband Robert, who's on the edge. There he is. So that's our group.
Thank you. And Nate?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Nate Baggio, and happy to be on this committee and excited about today's agenda.
Thank you. Chair?
I'm Tara Lieberstein. I'm with the Friends of the Dog Park. Oops. Sorry about the echo.
Let's see, Jennifer. You're muted, Jennifer.
Oh, me? Hi. I'm Jennifer Frio, and I am a member of the Jesse Owens Park Project Group with Katie, and I'm super excited about this agenda too.
Wayne, you're muted. Wayne, Neil, you're okay, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Wayne Neal. I'm the Principal Grounds Maintenance Supervisor for Department of Recreation and Parks. And I'm glad to be here to listen to everyone's concerns and glad to be here.
Thank you. Viana?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Viana. I am the Lake Balboa Field Deputy with the Office of Council President Nuri Martinez, ED6, and I'm here with Jonah as well.
Okay. And Ruth?
Hi, I'm Ruth Doxey. I'm on the Lake Balboa Neighborhood Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Robbie?
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Robbie Spears. I'm with Recreation and Parks in the Emergency Management Division. My responsibility, one of them is the administrative coordination of the bid teams around the areas for people experiencing homelessness.
Thank you. And let's see, Jennifer. Oh, sorry, Jennifer. You already had your chance. Well, Stacy, right? Hello, you're muted.
Yeah, hi, I'm just Stacy, a stakeholder in the Lake Balboa community. Just here to hear about all the exciting news. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. And Richard, if you can.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm Richard Campbell. I work for the city in the Bureau of Engineering, and I'm the project manager for the Lake Balboa Irrigation Project.
Thank you. And we haven't even completed, we already have, I see that Daniel Johnson is with us and has his hand raised. Would you like to speak, Daniel, or can you?
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Johnson. I am the NEA that represents the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment for Lake Balboa. I just had a quick statement in terms of a recommendation. It was called to my attention by a board member that folks had trouble accessing the meeting. So of course, I'll have to say the recommendation will be to not have the meeting, but I will also leave that as the discretion of the board. I'll just share that just because it was a new link provided. So I tried to resolve the issue on our end as well due to the link being expired. However, the meeting had already occurred. So this isn't my normal every evening meeting. This is a committee meeting, so I'm not trying to impede on it. However, this is a Brown Act meeting. So I'll just share that with the recommendation and leave it at you all's discretion as the board. So forgive me for being the bearer of bad news. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Okay, bye. Since we've gone through that, can I get did everyone see the agenda or any part of the agenda, I hope?
Well, also, I'm Linda Gravani. I'm the Lake Balboa Neighborhood Council president. And there's a chat in here from Gary Kay saying unclear why the meeting is still going on when board members, stakeholders, and invited speakers can't join due to incorrect Zoom information on the agenda. The actual information is accurate. There just seems to be some discrepancy. The entire Zoom information was not on the agenda.
Yeah, and if it's okay, I'd like to add the fact that, yes, this is a committee meeting and the number of, and oddly enough, this is quite a large group of attendees for this meeting. In fact, this is, we have a quorum, which is unusual for our committee. And all these folks were able to get in. We've gone to extraordinary work trying to see that everyone had an opportunity to join this. I don't see that there's any trouble, but nevertheless, here we are.
Okay, so if I could make a recommendation, you can have your speakers speak. It can be an unofficial meeting. You just don't make any, you don't vote on anything.
All right, fine, if that makes
Just
everyone
update,
happy, we'll
just
go ahead and
update.
do that.
And if you don't mind, I'm hanging on to the phone. If we could take Mr. Campbell out of order, that would make me very happy.
All right. Should we approve the agenda or the minutes first?
No,
Oh, we
you can't
even do
approve
that because
anything.
We're not
You
even
can't
having a
approve-
meeting.
Can't
Okay,
approve anything.
okay, so we're gonna skip 3 and 4 and take Mr. Campbell out of order. I really appreciate having him here. Mr.
Which-
Campbell, would you like to speak, please?
What item number is Mr. Campbell?
We're gonna move Mr. Campbell up from number 7 to number 3. Right after introductions.
Okay, Mr. Campbell,
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
can everybody hear him okay? Perfect. Okay, go for it.
Okay, I'm the project manager for the Lake Balboa Irrigation Project. The park is currently being irrigated. The part of the park that's currently being irrigated is approximately 67 acres. We have designed the irrigation system for the entire park, and we have an estimate from our designer of approximately $11.4 million to complete the entire irrigation. The problem we're having is that this project, which was a specified project in the 1996 Prop K measure, we only have about $2.5 million funded so far. And I found out a couple of months ago that that's all the money we're going to get for right now. If we want to extend the irrigation to other parts of the park, there'll have to be other sources of funds other than Proposition K. So what we're doing now is we're proposing to irrigate an area called Phase 1, which is about 9 acres. And we think that we can fit that project into the $2.5 million range. Right now, I am in the middle of writing a board report to allow the designer to proceed. There was certain restrictions on the designer's ability to proceed. The contract expired, and now we have to write a new contract. They have a new contract, and now I have to write what they call a sole source board report to allow the designer to continue their work. That sole source board report should go to the board within the next 3 or 4 weeks. If that gets approval, then the designer can proceed to create a set of bid documents that applies only to Phase 1, the 9-acre Phase 1. So that's my report.
Mr. Campbell, where is the 9 acres?
We have a map of the park that has different colors on different that are pertinent to different controllers, and this particular area is the closest area to the water service. If you're familiar with what we call the purple monster, are you familiar with that term?
Yes.
Yes, it starts, that's where we connect, and the sprinkler system would go on both sides of that purple monster for it to add up to about 9 acres.
This is Jim Stein, sir. Is there any chance you could send us at Lake Balboa a copy of that map?
Sure.
That'd be great.
Where do I send it?
My email is jimstein@lakebalboanc.org, and I'll send my email to you.
Oh, good. Okay, because I was having trouble writing it down. Is it
Okay.
Jim Stein?
No, just Jim Stein.
Jim Stein. Okay. Well, if you'll send me that email address, I'll get you that map right away.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate you giving us the situation over there. There's a lot of people that are curious, and
one thing I neglected to mention was our target date to finish the 9 acres, which I think will be somewhere around January of 2024. That's just my feeling. Of course, it will. We'll find out more accurately once we bid the job out.
Okay.
Mr. Campbell?
Yeah.
One of the dreams that the neighborhood council has had as friends of the dog park is to get purple water to the dog park at the corner of Victory and White Oak. How can we
Corner
make
of
that
Victory
happen?
and- let's see, Victory and why, that's quite a ways away from the Lake Balboa, isn't it?
No. That's our border.
Victory and White Oak?
Yeah, that's very far from the lake itself, but not for the neighborhood council.
Oh, I see. Well,
We've got dying trees and dead grass. And we're trying to get purple water over there. And we keep hearing from Rec and Park that it is a federal issue because it has to cross over Bull Creek. And when I checked with Brad Sherman, he says if Rec and Park will approve it, so will I. So we're stuck.
this is the first I've heard of this.
Well, I haven't been screaming to the right people.
The specified project in the ballot measure only deals with the park around Lake Balboa, and so that funding cannot be used for anything else.
So because you're in irrigation, do you have any recommendation for us on who we need to contact or how we can make that happen?
Not right now. I could try to look into it and email you back, or email Jim Stein what I found out. I have no idea where I would start, but I can try.
Well, you're on the inside, we're on the outside. So whatever you can do, we would appreciate. We have a question from Miriam.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to.
Mary. Go ahead, please.
Well, back in the day when we were on the schedule to, thank you, to get the purple line by 2017. And this was per Mario Vito. And I contacted him, and he said he wasn't in that department anymore, but he gave me a couple of names to contact. And it was Marvin Schrober and John Lockett. So, you know, I don't think this is dealing with the same funds. So it might be a total different can of worms, but I gave this to Jonah. I think I forwarded it to Jim too. These are the two people we need to speak to. At the time, they probably were on vacation or something. Is Jonah there? Jonah?
Before
Yeah.
Jonah speaks, was that just recently? You said something about 2017. So were you in touch with these people just recently?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
back, we had them at a meeting, Mario, and he went through the whole schedule back then. And we were at the end of the list, which wasn't exciting, but you know, it was something. But then we just didn't follow it, and we don't know how we got dropped off or what's happening. So I'm imagining that what is happening with the irrigation with Prop K is totally different funding than what.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah, actually it isn't. It's that is actually on item 6 on the agenda. I asked Richard to speak. Any information you can give us, of course, that's great, but I asked Richard to speak specifically about the irrigation around the Lake Balboa Park because there was some question on that at our last meeting. And listen, if there's Mr. Campbell, if there's anything we can do to speak to anyone, at the most recent meeting there, when they said they had a lot of money for us and gave a check, part of their interest was to help with irrigation. It didn't say specifically what irrigation, but perhaps there's some irrigation money for what you're trying to do. So I'll look into that and I'll get back to you regarding that. I really
Okay.
appreciate it.
And Jim, could you send me the names of those contacts that the other person mentioned? I didn't get them. I didn't write them down. I
Yes.
don't know how to spell their names. I wondered what division or department of the city they belong to. If you could email me that, I can try to follow through.
Okay, will do. I'll get that from Miriam and send it to you. Thank you very much.
And
All right, I'll be getting off the line now. Is that all right?
Thank you, sir. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, having completed, I'm sorry to move along so quickly here, but having completed that.
But before that, Jonah has his hand raised, I think because Miriam had a question of
Okay.
him.
Actually, I was going to go to
Go
Jonah
ahead,
for the
Jim.
next item anyway.
All right. Well, so yeah, so just to Miriam's question, like we do have the contacts, we're reaching out to them, trying to figure out where this project exists within the Bureau of Public Works, Board of Public Works. And we'll try to figure out what the funding sources would look like. It would probably have to be a capital improvements project at the city if it can't be funded through Prop K, as Mr. Campbell stated. So I'm trying to chase down some of these old documents right now, you know, and trying to figure out sort of what was promised to the community, what the original scope of work was, and try to get, you know, those details for you all. And, you know, we'll talk more about the watering at the later item. But I do want to, you know, speak to the item that I think I'm on the agenda for, which is the Jesse Owens Park operations that were conducted over the past couple of weeks. So just to briefly give everyone an update, you know, first all, Jonah Glickman, manager of homeless response and initiatives for Council President Nuri Martinez. So as we all know, Rec and Parks has, you know, been working with the neighborhood council and the community for a number of years now on improvements to the park. After, you know, a lot of time and some delays during COVID, of course, you know, we're really excited to move forward with the project to install park and shade structure, picnic benches, and fencing to the park, increasing the amenities that are there. So Rec and Parks is going to be starting construction on Thursday. I know we have representatives here from the department who could speak further to that work. But as part of the preparation for the park improvement, we have been leading a comprehensive effort to address the homeless encampments and vehicle dwellings on White Oak Avenue around Jesse Owens Park. We have conducted LASA outreach teams going out to the location over the past few months and much more intensely in the lead up to today. We were able to, you know, successfully house some of the people at the Jesse Owens Park. And in addition, we were notifying individuals residing in their vehicles that if they did not move by today's date, that they would be subject to tow by the Department of Transportation. Luckily, that messaging worked, and by the time it was this morning, we were down to only 3 vehicles remaining on White Oak, which is a far cry from the 7 or 8 that had been there consistently over the past couple of years. One of the individuals was able to move his RV voluntarily and left by the park. And there were 2 vehicles remaining, both of which were unoccupied. And the Department of Transportation was able to remove those 2 vehicles. So one small RV and one large bus, which is very difficult given the city resources. We had the Bureau of Sanitation there to help remove debris and prep the vehicles for tow. And then I want to give a shout out to the Rec and Parks team who went out multiple times to clean up the park ahead of today's date. And they still came today to remove one remaining encampment from the park, which was also unoccupied. And so, you know, after today, we're glad to report that the park is free of encampments and vehicles and RVs next to the park as well. And so now Rec and Parks is able to proceed, and there is ample parking for the construction contractor that is working with Rec and Parks. And that temporary no parking signage will remain around the park while the construction is going on for the next couple of months. And if residents do have questions or concerns about the no parking signs, please contact myself and Viana. We want to assure folks like the temporary signs are really just to ensure that the curb around the park is clear, and it will not be enforced elsewhere in the neighborhood. It's solely on the segments of White Oak and Jellicoe that are directly adjacent to the park. Really want to thank everyone for their patience. I know it has been frustrating for this neighborhood to see the park have these issues over the past couple of years, but very glad to report that we were able to fully clear the park, and we're going to continue allocating resources here to make sure that we try to do our best to keep it this way. Especially during the construction phase. And I know Rec and Parks is coordinating that internally. So that was the bulk of my update for this evening. And Viana and I will be on as well to answer any questions.
Jonah, there's, if you don't mind, a couple of things that were brought up last month. One of them had to do with you're working on an MOA regarding the property along the bike path between Woodley and the 405. Was there any progress on that?
So we are making some progress. I had a meeting last week with the Army Corps, Metro, and Rec and Parks and Sanitation, and sort of the whole 9 yards. They are reviewing some documents for me that may point to the jurisdiction of the area. And I am still working with Rec and Parks and the Army Corps on the long-term MOA, but in the short term, we're really trying to get a cleanup operation together. Just a quick summary on it is that the land is part of the Sepulveda Basin and is leased from the Army Corps of Engineers. The area north of Victory, we have had trouble determining jurisdiction. Metro's MOU for the Orange Line does actually not include the bike path between White Oak and Haskell and the 405. So that area, it does not show up on the Metro MOU. However, according to old property records, the Army Corps is trying to parse out where the jurisdictional lines are established between Metro and Rec and Parks. Since when this area was leased from the Army Corps, the Orange Line did not exist. Therefore, the old maps that we're looking at, it's been difficult to determine. But Metro maintains that they don't have jurisdiction north of the fencing line, but we are still trying to sort that out so that we, have the correct jurisdiction established before proceeding with an encampment cleanup. But that area is a top priority for the office, and I'm continuing to chase down these leads and get everyone on the same page.
Thank you. And this kind of touches on item number 6, if you don't mind. You said you were going to look and see if you could add any more information on the discussion of the extension of the purple pipe beyond Bull Creek.
So the funding issue is going to be the main obstacle here. As Mr. Campbell stated, it's very significant investment that is required, along with the significant time investment. And so I'm hoping that our discussion today can also focus on short-term solutions, since my concern is that while the purple pipe is a very critical infrastructure and would be very beneficial to the dog park, it would likely be a very long time before that project is realized. And so I'm hoping that, if we get to that item, I really would like to discuss some short-term solutions that can be undertaken while we still continue to work out the irrigation project. So that's sort of my input on it. I think that, the irrigation piping is very important, but it is a long-term investment. And so I'd like to discuss, what what can be done in the short term, because it is a very concerning issue for the office. So I'll leave that for now until we get to that item, Jim.
Thank you, and I really appreciate that. So with that, we have a couple of hands up from, I don't know which order they came up unless anybody else can help me. Miriam?
I was just wondering about the bike path that I was told might infringe on the dog park. I'm kind of confused over land ownership versus the plans on the construction continuing between White Oak and Balboa.
The project for the bike path is part of a larger Bureau of Engineering project from Van Alden all the way to Balboa. So that project only goes up to Balboa, and I'm trying to figure out if there's plans to continue improving along Balboa to Haskell. And it's been a real challenge to try to figure out the exact jurisdiction there. So I do apologize for that, Miriam, but there's the encampments mostly are on the eastern side of the bike path, closer to the 405 freeway between Woodley and Haskell. So that's kind of the area we've been focusing on in terms of the jurisdiction and trying to figure that out.
Oh, I'm just wondering, is that actually going to happen, or are there plans to take 15 feet of the dog park and make it into the bike path between White Oak and Balboa?
I'd have to review. I apologize. I'd have to review the scopes of work and the engineering documents. So I don't want to give you bad information right now. And so I'll look into that and get back to you. I know that you and I had spoken about that, and I know you'd spoken with Councilmember Blumenfield's office about that as well, if I'm correct. So that's an issue that I do want to look into the scope of work of that project.
All right, that would be great. I think it's fallen off the face of the earth between you and I, but these things spring back up.
We'll look into that for you and see what we can find out.
Terrific, thank you.
Jennifer?
Hey, so I just want to talk quickly about the Jesse Owens Park project. Jonah, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for always showing up for our community. It means a lot to us. And even somebody was walking in the park this morning when we were there, walking her dog, and because she was, wondering what was going on and saw the cleanup happening. And she expressed, such thanks. Her dad lives across the street. She never got to enjoy the park as a child. So this is stuff that is really meaningful to our community and people that have been here for a really long time. And thank you for showing up. One concern that another neighbor mentioned to me today is that when those RVs left, and I know that you said there was one that had a little bit of an issue. There is one now parked at in front of 6834 White Oak, which is near the Plasma Center. So it's like near Van Owen. And it's in front of a person's house. It's blocking the bike path. I know that they called, and I think maybe the neighbor might be on. If she's still on, she should raise her hand. Her name is Jessica. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention because I think this is going to be kind of a consistent issue until we fall into a better pattern of how to manage this. I raised a ticket on 311 as well. Is there anything else we can do?
Well, I think you have done, you've done a lot. That's perfect by raising it to us. Another resource is to call 1-800-ABANDON, which is the Department of Transportation's abandoned vehicles hotline. There are still difficulties when enforcing on vehicle dwellings, but if you call it in to 1-800-ABANDON, it then enters into their system and they can dispatch an officer to the location. And one thing I want to look into is if it is indeed obstructing the bike path, we may be able to do something there, but I'd need to go out and get some pictures and kind of take a look myself. and at that 6834 White Oak.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a issue that roils all of Council District 6 and all over the city. We have hundreds of them in our district, so we are getting constant complaints. And when there is movement from one location, we try to follow up to where people go. So this is really helpful.
My other concern, though, is that this neighbor was told by whoever she spoke to at 311 to approach the person living in the RV herself. And
I would definitely
as
not
a
recommend
woman,
that.
that's a no-go.
Yeah, no, I would definitely not recommend that. Can't speak for the 311 operators, but yeah, I would definitely disagree with that assessment. I would ask, I would have told her to call the Department of Transportation so that they can dispatch an officer and they can cite the vehicle if it's illegally parked. There is still issues with towing and impounding it, but again, they're still empowered to go out and to cite the vehicle. So I would definitely recommend her call the abandoned vehicles hotline with the Department of Transportation.
Awesome, thank you. I wrote the number down.
Thank you. And Stacy? You have your hand up?
Yes, and great timing. There's going to be barking. So a couple of things. One, Jennifer, I think that was just speaking. Thank you for bringing that up because I thought the same thing when I saw that post on Nextdoor, advising the public to approach isn't necessarily safe. But I also wanted to thank Jonah for all of his efforts. Just from my own experience, I know Jonah will follow through and figure out this whole jurisdiction tangled web. And I think that will only be good. Of course, now there's a claim too, sorry. That will only be in the best interest of the community moving forward, because I know that this is not the first issue that has been impacted by a lack of clarity around jurisdictional issues in our community. So Jonah, go for it. Don't give up. I know you can do it.
Thank you,
and then
Stacey.
my last question for you, Jonah, is a quick and easy one. I know that we don't have a crystal ball, but what is the anticipated timeline on the Jesse Owens Park project?
Oh, great.
And
Glad you asked
we'll
that.
just actually add a year, so don't worry. We'll expect.
I think I may be able to answer that.
I was gonna say, you could take that one, Jim, if you want, and Stacy, Jennifer, appreciate the kind words, and Jim, you could take that question if you want.
I talked to Mike Bennett, who's the president of Rec West, and they have the contract for the playground. And the groundbreaking is scheduled for the 14th, which is Wednesday.
Thursday.
And Rec West, and I've worked with them a lot, is very good on their timeline, and they say it should take them 6 to 8 weeks tops. However, they told me to keep in mind that the city has decided to replace the quite a bit of the concrete and the restroom, and that is given to somebody else, so he couldn't speak for the timeline on that. I hope that helps.
Thank you. But I won't hold them to 6 to 8 weeks.
And he's pretty good. He's pretty good. You probably don't know, but I'm in the playground business, and I've worked with him before. And if he says they don't get paid till it's done, so if he says 6 to 8 weeks, I bet money it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks. But again, he's not doing the restroom.
Thank you.
Katie.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to ask if Jonah or Viana, hi Viana, know about any kind of rules with the RVs. Is there any ordinance that states that they can't park in front of residents or businesses? And is there something that we as a community can do, either like with a petition or some kind of movement to express our concerns with having RVs parked in front of our houses or businesses that we'd like to patronize? I know
So
it's kind of a
currently,
tough question.
no, it's a great question. Currently, the city's former ordinance, which was called 8502, is not active. The city is also currently in litigation regarding that ordinance and some of the signage that has been posted around the city. So we are in active litigation on it, which makes the issue very complicated. One of the other components is that in the past, the ordinance that outlawed it in residential areas also made it legal in commercial and industrial areas. Council District 6 has a lot more of those zones than other parts of the city. And so what ended up happening was that there was actually an influx of RVs into certain parts of the district and the community. And so we are trying to figure out a alternative to that old version of it, because we feel that we have a lot of business owners and in the district that would suffer as a result of that. So currently the protocols that are in place at the city is that if an RV poses a traffic hazard, if it's environmental hazard like sewage leaking into the storm drain, or if it's blocking city permitted work such as this construction project. So because right now the council president voted on these criteria back in May. And so, that was sort of our interim measure. And we're still working on that. And I will let you know if there are opportunities to provide public comment or other community support for items that come before the council. I can't speak to that at this moment, but if there are items that deal with vehicle dwelling, and strengthening our rules around RVs, I definitely would, implore everyone to, support those items by providing public comment to city council, whether that be in person or online. And so just, stay tuned, and Viana and myself will try our best to update you all when those items, are being voted on. I think that is an area where we could definitely use support from the community.
Thank you so much. I know you will too. Thank you, because I think if there's like it's not necessarily the people, it's the sort of like the criminal activity that comes with it. Not on every single one, just on certain ones that we've seen, which make it kind of scary for.
Of course. No, and those things, and again, being homeless is not a crime, but there are still lots of other things that are still crimes. So I always remind folks that, just because it is a homeless person in an RV doesn't mean that they're exempt from all the other rules that LAPD enforces across the city. So
yeah, fair enough. Okay, thank you, Jonah.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And
you're welcome.
I think we've beat that to death. If we could move on to item number 8, and I've asked Mr. Wayne Neal if he could be with us and speak a little bit to irrigation in the dog park. We have a serious issue there. We don't want to, everyone's got a rather serious issue with irrigation nowadays, as we all know, but we certainly don't want to lose those trees that are in there. Can you tell us something, Mr. Neal? And I'm sure Miriam will want to chime in.
Yes, Jim, I sure will. So I understand your concern because of the current watering restrictions, you're going to see a lot of the turf not thriving as it used to. And our goal is to keep the trees alive, but then with the current watering restrictions, it's very difficult to keep the majority of the turf green. And as a result of that, you'll see within the dog park that some of the netting that the sod was purchased on, when you purchase grass, it comes on a netting that it grows on. So once the grass dies, and maybe the dogs, they'll scratch the ground, and you'll start seeing this lightweight plastic, but that's a result of the drought, the grass dying, and the netting starting to be exposed. So that's our challenge, is just keeping it safe at this time. The grass is going to suffer, of course, because of our watering restrictions, but we will still strive to maintain as green as possible with the watering restrictions that we currently have.
Thank you, Miriam.
Yeah, these trees are large trees that didn't get distressed within the water restrictions we have. The Army Corps does own this land and they lease it to the city. And I have given their recommendations before and I will have to get glasses to read this. Hold on a second. Nice. Of course, we have water restrictions now, but we have been eroding the last couple of years through the pandemic. I haven't been following the irrigation, but we used to plant seed to keep the soil from eroding. The master plan says it is recommended that improvements include providing chairs. With its location adjacent to the Los Angeles River, which does not currently meet bacterial quality standards, it is recommended that best management practices such as vegetative swales be installed to ensure that no animal waste is entering the river and degrading the water quality. In the past, the parks have been seeded to accommodate that and to keep the dirt from eroding, and that watered the trees. We've seen nothing happening at the park for the last couple of years. And I've had a list of things since March that nothing has been addressed. That we have had such erosion that the sprinklers are sticking out of the ground more than an inch of eroded ground, and the trees are distressed, and that is over time. It didn't happen with the current water restrictions. I guess instead of me complaining about what hasn't been done, we need to move forward. What do we do to accommodate what the Army Corps wants done with the basin and the erosion? The dirt at the park now is like sand. The trees are so distressed, and a distressed tree like that needs 30 to 50 gallons just to start hydrating it again. And somebody sent out someone with a hose. This isn't happening. Whether we need a truck of reclaimed water to go in there and soak our park, we need better solutions, and we need that sod was given to the park free. Thurman put it in. It left the netting. Somebody tripped and broke their ankle. Nobody did anything about it. They just let it hang there. So to stay on point with the irrigation and the seeding, and that nothing's happening as it has been the last 25 years that I've known the park to be maintained. I don't see that the current situation, drought, is what's causing these trees to fail right now. So what is a real solution? Yeah, how are we going to deal with saving these trees? I think we need to get an arborist or someone in there to look at them and evaluate what we need to do. And it's more than just a hose and the erosion.
Miriam, you bring up a good point, and I did speak with Forestry, who has an arborist over there, Art Flores. So I'll continue to have a conversation with him this week so that we can save any tree that's in distress, and we're not going to let them die because of lack of water. But I'll definitely consult with our arborist, and he'll give us the best recommendations, because we're just maintenance, but the arborist would tell us what it's going to take to sustain the trees.
You know, I've been asking about this for months. So to get to a meeting saying you're going to talk to city arborists, and sending in people to post, we know it just feels like a runaround while we watch. The last time I saw that pepper tree that shed a whole limb on the fence, it was healthy. We're talking about months. So each month that you put this off saying, I'm going to go talk to some, our park, I set up a meeting with you and we went over many things with Brian that are happening at the park, and not one thing has been addressed. It's frustrating. So I don't know what the answer is, but just to hear that you're going to talk to an arborist and maybe send the guy out with a hose again, it's very frustrating.
I sent Mary pictures on the day that you said that you watered the trees, and I don't know if you sent them to Jonah, but it looked like somebody came out there and went around like half of the trees. I have pictures with my dog, and it was last week. You know, you might as well have been watering like 3-foot patch of grass, not inundating a tree that's dying. It's not one tree we're talking about. We're talking about that one side of the park, like 30 trees, not to mention the trees on the other side. So all talk and telling me you're going to have a meeting is really not addressing the situation. It's passing the buck. It's telling me that you're going to do something and you're not going to do it. You're going to just tell me you're going to do something to tell me, okay, Donna, we're going to do something, and then you don't. And I don't really appreciate that, because there's hundreds of people that go to the dog park every single day. Hundreds of people, handicapped people, elderly people, all demographics, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian. You know, we're talking about a huge demographic, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people every single day go to this park. Well, we can't even get grass there. We can't even have you water the trees that you tell me that you're going to save, and you're not doing it. You're telling me that you are. You're actually telling me you're going to have a meeting. You're going to call somebody, and it's going to take what, 6 months? By then the trees are going to be dead, and I don't mean to be obnoxious, but we have two porta potties. Wait a second, we have 2 porta potties.
We're trying here, okay? Please be reasonable. We are trying. We're having this meeting. Mr. Neal has joined us. He's made a commitment. If we can set up a timeline, that would be the next step.
So
please, let's give it a chance.
What I would like to do is actually work with you, Wayne, going forward and communicate. That we haven't been communicating. I haven't been able to meet with you. I would like us to be heard. And I know Jonah would like that. I know Jim would like that. These trees need deep watering. And all of them. It's not picking out 1 or 2 trees. It's the whole park, whether we have to turn on and flood the park, close it, and do this once a month. I don't know what the answer is, but we should do it sooner than later. And we should have a relationship. I'm not, you know, I would really like that one. I have had that in the past, and everybody retired and got moved out.
So let's stay solution oriented here. If the solution is to get more water, let's focus on how to get more water to get that out the way. Okay, let's just focus. If it takes a water truck, or if it takes someone out there with another source of water, let's just focus on this. Let's just get that done. Okay. So if you
communicate about that,
thank you, Wayne. We would like
to meet to see it done, that's one thing. Or if you'd like to meet out there to tell me your other concerns, we could do that also.
I would love that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Stacy, you had your hand up.
All right.
The dogs wanted to chime in on that.
Stacy, did you want to say something? No? Okay.
Holy crap, I've been talking the whole time, didn't realize I was muted. Sorry.
Oh, so that explains it.
Yes. What I said very nice things, but I'll repeat briefly. I just wanted to say that I wanted to thank those who are here to advocate on behalf of the dog park. I have two little princesses. I have two little dogs, and they are not fans of the dog park, but they appreciate your advocacy on their behalf. But my bigger concern, my question is, it's Mr. Neal. Am I getting the name correct?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. So here's my concern. What I heard is huge, huge, huge liability for the city. Like, it is a known issue. I mean, I've had the issue with the netting under the sod because mine in the backyard has all died with water restrictions and all of that. And that is a known issue. And I was going to say people and animals are going to get hurt, but it sounds like that has already happened. And that, going into it knowing that this is going to be an issue, that sounds like a class action lawsuit that can happen against the city. So what is the plan to address that from a safety perspective, dealing with that netting?
Stacy, I did do a site walk last week. I saw the netting. I didn't see it as being a tripping hazard. The amount of netting that I saw, it was more like fibrous sticking up, nothing that you can trip and fall on or your shoe can get caught in it, because the area is line, trim, and mold, whatever we may have left there. So we have gardeners and we have a part-timer there daily, Monday through Friday. I didn't see any tripping hazards when it comes to the netting. Most of that has already been removed in the early days of it being exposed. So now we're down to the last fragments of it sticking up. If you saw a couple of isolated areas that had the netting there, I'll address it, or I'll have staff address it, that is, in the coming days, because it's not our intention to leave any safety hazards out there. So that's going to be an ongoing thing. You're welcome.
Thank you, and I'll defer that to Miriam and the pack. Thanks.
Thank you. Nate, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Mr. Neal, it was brought up and you've committed to do this, but talk to Art Flores, the arborist with the city. Can we just get a timeline on that response? And whatever that response is, I know, Miriam, you've committed to meet with Mr. Neal, but if we could share that with the broader community as well. Saving the trees in the park, I think, are important to a number of people. So can you give us a timeline on a response? And also, can you get that response to Chairman Stein?
I sure can. Let's say at the latest. Okay, I do not know Art's schedule. He may be off the rest of the week, but I'll reach out to him Tuesday at the latest. Okay, so let's just shoot for Tuesday. I'll try to get it to you before then.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll meet out there, Miriam, the arborist, myself, and you. We can meet out there and talk about the water requirements of the trees and what's needed out there.
Excellent.
Okay. And I guess maybe you can talk about any other particular issue when you're there that we may have missed. And I really appreciate it. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you very much, and thank you for being here. Let's see. Number 9, we touched on briefly the homeless encamped along the bike path. And Robbie, would you like to add anything to that? Are you with us?
Yeah, I mean, nothing that I would add other than we're still working out the jurisdictional components, and I know, I'm sure this is my first meeting joining, but I'm sure it's frustrating and seems like bureaucracy to have those conversations as of the parcels, but really, we try to get that right as to which land is Rec and Parks, which is Metro, because of course, if we get that wrong, we end up removing property then we get into issues of the city of litigation, right? That we've acted outside of our scope or what we've been legally authorized to do. So I know we're working very hard with along with Jonah to make sure that we're getting that issue taken care of within the scope of the authority we're given by the city.
Thanks. Of particular concern, we spoke about last month was that area right near Bull Creek there at the, at the eastern side of the parking lot for the Orange Line at the corner of Balboa and Victory. There's a number of homeless who have taken up residence, or however you want to say it, down in there, and we've had in a couple of, just in the last year or so, actually, we've had fires in there. We've had other issues. Believe it or not, you guys don't know me that well, but I used to ride my bike like crazy. I wish I still could, but I used to ride around the Sepulveda Basin, and I know you really can't anymore, not safely, and so I know that is a serious concern, and it's something that everyone should want to do something about, because if the folks remain there, we're just going to have those issues over and over and over again. And of course, the next one is between Woodley and the 405, which is it's really embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. We had some friends come and visit us from out of state, and they if they would have asked me, I would have told them to take another way, but they decided to get off at Victory and then come down to my house, and so they drove by there, and they said, "Oh God, please, LA has turned into a slum." I go, "Yeah, sorry." It's really ugly, and no matter how many times people seem to get cleared out of there, hey, they come right back again. I don't know what you can do about it, but those are the two areas that deeply concern me, and I think they deeply concern everyone around here. So I just wanted to let you know that we are concerned about that, and I realize you're looking at whose land is whose land or whatever, but I thank you for taking the time to hear me gripe. That's all I can say.
Certainly understand the frustration and anything like that. I mean, that's Jonah is in very close. Jonah is very great about coordinating with us the concerns of the community, letting us know, submitting service requests so that we prioritize the areas that are of greatest concern. So keep doing that. Keep connecting with Jonah, and we'll make sure that it's prioritized on our end, the best to our ability.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 10, and I'm not sure if there's anyone on here who can say anything to this. Normally I would speak to Viana or to Jonah, but if anybody who is on our discussion this evening would like to say something, is there anything can be done with the median on the Balboa Boulevard south of Victory? The weeds there are getting taller than my house. It's got to be at some point it becomes a fire hazard, I think, but it's certainly embarrassing. Anybody? Nobody?
Hey there, Jim. This is Jonah. I don't know, Viana, did you want to speak to that one?
Viana, are you still with us?
Well, I can give the update on her behalf. So essentially, the Balboa Median is what's called an unmaintained median. It's unirrigated. So that means that Bureau of Street Services does not have it on their regular maintenance list. Same goes for the median on Burbank Boulevard, where we've also received a number of complaints regarding that condition. So we have to work with a local nonprofit, which is called the LA Conservation Corps, in order to conduct the weed abatement on the medians. The current issue is just they have a lot of crew availability shortages with the COVID spike that's going on. And they also have a lot of safety concerns, as do we, with the traffic hazards. So Viana and I are working with the LA Conservation Corps and the Department of Transportation to set dates for maintenance, because we are going to have to close a lane of traffic on either side of the street in order to ensure crews' safety while they conduct that maintenance. So we are working on that, though, and we have been receiving all of your complaints on it.
Thank you very much. Linda Schwerin, you had your hand up.
Yes, I did. And thank you, Jonah, very much, because I appreciate all the work that you're trying to do on Balboa Boulevard. And that is one of our main thoroughfares through the community. In past months, Mary Martinez's office with CD6 helped to sponsor a cleanup on Balboa Boulevard, which was between the Van Nuys Airport and Roscoe Boulevard. And that, which is a very difficult and non-residential exposure to Balboa, was very appreciated. But as Jonah mentioned, Balboa Boulevard, which extends a very long distance, is, I would say, excluded from residential homeowners taking care of their own area, especially in the median. So anything that CD6 could help our Lake Balboa constituents with is extremely appreciated. Thank you, Jonah.
Thank you. Item number 11. There's two council files. I sent them out. Council files, these have to do with weeding and so forth over in the and brush clearance efforts over in the wildlife area. CF 22-0600-S20. I'm sorry, I don't know how to share these, or I would, so I'm just going to read them. Instruct the fire department to report to the Public Safety Committee on potential partnerships with the Conservation Corps for brush clearance efforts and other outside entities that use goats to eliminate invasive and overgrown brush. The other council file is CF 22-0600-S61. Instruct the Recreation and Parks to report to the Arts, Parks, Health, Education, and Neighborhood Councils and Neighborhoods Committee on the feasibility of using wildlife, especially goats, to support brush clearance activities in the parks. Now I've read those, and I'm wondering if I'm sorry, I forgot who was on here to speak to us about the about using goats to clear the brush. Oh, please, don't jump all over each other. Barbara, George, and it looks like Linda Gravani.
Well, it fits right in with your discussion this evening here, because You're talking about controlling weeds, and that's exactly what this is talking about. And if we keep the height of the weeds down, that makes it harder to put up your tent, and that helps keep homeless out of the area. So it all kind of ties together. I am a bird watcher person who actually thinks this is a very good way to control invasive weeds. However, George over there is the actual plant guy. So George, I'm going to let you talk first in general about invasive weeds and how we've looked at it, and especially I'll say our begging, pleading, whining to Rec and Parks to let us at least have a conversation. The request originally went in, I think, October of 2020, and we have yet to hear from anyone within Rec and Parks. George.
If I could, before George speaks on it, I just want to give a little background. As Barbara mentioned, several years back, we tried to get goats, and there was no response other than the fences have to be electrified, and that would be liability. These two council files, one is going to Rec and Park and the other is going to the fire department. And I think this is one way for us to voice our opinion in unison to get the city to act on it. In the past, Lake Balboa provided funds in case the city would approve it, but the need is still there, and George will tell us all about it. But what we need is for everybody that's on this call is to voice their opinion on the council files. And if you don't know how to do it, I'm going to put my email as opposed to the Lake Balboa NC committee, and just let me know and I will teach you how to do it. It's simple once you know how. Sorry, George, go ahead, please.
I'll add one thing to that very quickly. You can also have a group response. So for example, our Audubon chapter put a letter together, the board voted and approved it, and that went in as a comment on these. I understand you can't vote tonight, but that's a possibility. I'll shut up now.
Yeah. Well, Barbara, the Audubon Society letter was excellent, so I think you should probably share that with the other people on this committee. So first off. So I'm George Waddell. I'm with a group of people called the Dawn Patrol with California Native Plant Society. And we have been working for about the last 12 years, Tuesday, Thursday mornings at dawn, as our name implies, for 3 hours or so at a whack, trying to remove invasive plants from the wilderness area. And if you've walked in the wilderness area near the lake, you can see that there's areas that are much different than others because we've been removing invasive plants. We found that if we remove invasive plants consistently in an area for 3 years consecutively, then you basically have removed them and they barely come back. And what we see is that after that happens, the native plants begin to appear and prosper and take over. So personally, as a person that likes plants, this should happen everywhere in all of California, and then we wouldn't have any invasive plants at all. Just a little information about our group. We started having a Saturday group in the last couple of years. We teamed up with a group called Friends of the LA River, and they have brought crowds of up to 100 people to help us do our work. In 2021, we did 2,700 person hours of work and removed 1,400 bags of invasive plants. Fortunately, much helped by the people of Rec and Parks who removed the bags for us. So far this year in 2022, we have 1,700 hours halfway through the year. So we're going to kill last year's record, and we're already up to about 800 bags. To understand a little bit about what our perspective is that we need to remove the invasive plants so the native plants can come in. Once the native plants come in, then native birds, native insects can live. The reason they're called invasive plants is that they don't support native organisms. So basically, when you look over a field of mustard, you're looking at a desert that a bird cannot get food in, that they can't raise babies there. There's not going to be any insects in there. It's just going to be essentially a nothing. But from the point of view of the fire people, our primary weed right now is the mustard plant. And it's a very strong, powerful plant that comes from a Mediterranean area that has Mediterranean climate like our own. It's very successful here. And it grows to be, as someone was mentioning in the median, over 8 feet tall. And it makes a very nice, hefty stem that goes up, and it dies at once a year. It's an annual, basically. And then you have an entire field full of 8 foot tall, completely dry material. It makes a lot of biomass, and it can burn when the humidity is low like crazy. So, which is what we see in those areas. We don't care that much about fire. We like it because it burns the weeds. But not everybody else has that opinion. After the giant fire that was in September 9th, 2020, we were very excited because it removed a huge number of invasive plants, and it removed everything else, but our plants come back. So that's fine. We don't care about fire as much as you guys might, but we knew the invasive plants would come in, and this was our chance to get one more year of removal. And so we came up with the idea of the goats back then, and the steering committee for the wildlife areas, which Barb is a member of, and so is the wonderful Miss Doxy. And so we had this idea that goats are a great way to remove plants. So we did some research. We had people come and present to our committee, and they described the process that it would take, and we raised money to do it. And we didn't really know how to go about getting permission. We wrote some letters and never heard anything from them. And so I don't know where these the city council movements are coming from. We don't know. All of a sudden they're here and we're talking about it again. And I know that we could raise the money to have these goats, but I told you that we did all this work last year, but we basically by hand removed about an acre's worth of material, maybe 2 acres. The goats in a few days, in a week, 1,000 goats can eat the 40 acres. That's the huge field that's to the west side of the, and we thought this would be a fantastic way at least to get a beginning. You got to understand, weed whacking does not remove weeds. It's abatement, but it doesn't remove them. You have to interfere with the life cycle of the plants before you can change anything. So that's our point of view. But definitely, if we brought the goats in, they would remove all that. You can't use mechanized stuff generally because the birds are nesting out there and so forth. So, and rec and parks have been reluctant to use mechanized stuff in that area. So goats seem like a good alternative. As far as the electrified fences go, they use the electrified fences to keep the goats from wandering away. If there's any plants you want to preserve, you put an electrified fence around the plant, around those plants. I don't think they're hazardous to human beings, though it might give you a shock, I suppose. And there's always somebody there with the goats. And the one thing that I was thinking was this would make people extremely interested in our areas. Can you imagine how fantastic it would be to have 1,000 cute little goats roaming around in the west field of the wildlife area? It would be in every newspaper. It would be, it would be on the TV news. It would be great. Yeah. And in addition, we would get rid of the weeds, which is what we want to do.
I like it.
So I guess I've said most of what. Oh, one thing about mustard, from our point of view, it's toxic to the soil. So it kills things in the soil that native plants need because it comes from a very far away place and has different points of view about how to live. It produces chemicals in the soil that make it very difficult for the plants that should be present to be present. Okay, I guess that's enough. Anybody have any questions?
Linda, you still had your hand, Linda Gravani, you still had your hand up?
Yes, I do. Lake Balboa is going to take this up when we meet in August as well. And so hopefully we'll have an official statement from the entire board. I do feel personally that the more voices that forward an opinion, the better. I mean, if there's a letter from Lake Balboa and there's a letter from the Audubon Society and so on, that's nice. But if you have 500 people voicing their opinion, the committee is going to say, huh, what's happening here? You know, there's elections coming and people want to keep their seats. That's all I
Yeah.
got to say.
Thank
you.
Linda Swearing?
You're muted, Linda.
All right, I only have a comment to make rather than something positive or negative. I've lived in the valley since the 1950s, and as a young person, when we were quite agricultural, one of the things that was used to help to reduce weeds and invasive plants were goats. And goats were actually a very positive thing at that time. They didn't harm the environment. They took care of eliminating invasive plants, and it made homeowners and farmers very happy. So here we are, this many years later, and I don't know about the liability concerns, but the use of goats to help eliminate invasive things on areas that we prize or we want to promote, I think is a very positive thing.
Thank you. With that being said, Barbara, is there any chance you can send us a copy of that letter that your committee wrote so that we could maybe write together a letter of our own? Something along that line?
I don't have the link with me right at the moment, but it's in the public comment section for both of those CFs. So
you can go to the public comments and see it?
The comment is there and the letter is an attachment, I believe.
Oh,
So
okay.
you should be able to see the letter from our board.
Okay, and as Linda Gravani said, if you want to contact her, she will explain to us how we can get in there and contribute to that. I notice Ruth, you have your hand up.
Yes, can I share my screen to show the council files?
You know how?
Yes, I did a lot. So these are the files, and I just wanted to point out that you click on one, it says page you requested cannot be found. So I'm hoping that this is not, you know, it's not expired or whatever. The other thing was, thank you, George, for your report. And I was thinking it was 100 goats, not 1,000 goats.
Maybe it's 100. It's probably 100.
But, yes, and I really hope that it goes through this time.
I'll comment there. I think it was 100 or a couple hundred, and we did make it totally clear. We're looking at our problem with European mustard, and the CNPS folks found this herd of goats that are European goats, and they come with their own trailer and their own wireless electric fencing and their own dogs and so forth. So they have a herder that stays with the goats at night and so forth. We are not asking Rec and Parks to fund this. We're going to try and community fund it. We're not asking Rec and Parks to manage it. The management of the goats comes with the project and the goats. So we're really just asking for the ROE. So it was the permit for right of entry that was submitted to Rec and Parks, and it's just silence. So
is there
Mr. Neal, if you can help us find a way and find the right person to talk to, that would be great.
Is there anybody from Rec and Parks on here who might be able to contribute something in that discussion?
Jim, this is Wayne. I'll pull the last email and find out where we left off at on this issue regarding the goats. I came in on that email chain late last year, but I can see who were the contacts. Maybe our planning department, but I'll follow up on that and see if they can get started on giving you a response for the RO.
I'm sure either Audubon or CNPS would love to speak with you if you have any questions, or even with the steering committee in total. So we're here to help you or find more information or explain what we learned from listening to the goat herders make a presentation.
I think that we can't vote tonight because we're not an official meeting, but as Linda Gravani said, at our regularly scheduled meeting next month of the Lake Balboa Neighborhood Council, we're probably going to vote to see if we can put together some funds. Does anybody have any idea what kind of funds, what kind of funding we need?
It's on the order of a few $1,000s.
Okay.
It's like $5,000 altogether, something like that.
I see.
That was the price 2 years ago, so we're not sure today. But there are other groups from the steering committee that are going to throw money in this pot too.
Right.
Goats minimum wage has gone up.
They have to truck them in.
Everybody that's ever heard about goats taking care of the weeds and the plants that are invasive just have a smile on their face and say, what a great idea.
Yeah,
so I'd like to be part of that great idea.
I remind everyone that groundbreaking is tentatively scheduled at Jesse Owens Mini Park on July 14th. Does anyone have any public comments? And I remind you that we cannot answer the comments, but they will be recorded. Does anybody have any comments? And the hands go up. Miriam.
Okay, well, I am not against Jesse Owens Park getting funds. What I would like to know, and I would like everyone to put on their thinking caps and figure out how Jesse Owens got the funds, and then advocate with us for our almost 7-acre dog park and grab some of those funds, because we are desperately needing those ourselves. I understand that it was not some of that money was Measure K, so that's for playgrounds, and some of that money is Recs and Parks. $95 million is allocated for capital improvements. So how do we do this? Who is going to jump in with us and track down some of that money and do some of the things for our park? Jonah, I know we've talked about this. I think that this Viana, and this. So I don't know how this came about. I know that this committee supported it. So tell me, advise us as a group. What we have to do to tap some of that, and who do we have to tap it with?
So normally public comment is a non-comment from the board. It's just for people to voice their opinion and we make note of it. I don't know if you want to get involved in that at this moment in time, Jim, because normally the Brown Act would not allow us to discuss anything that's not on the agenda.
Brown Act wouldn't let us have this meeting.
I beg your pardon?
The Brown Act wasn't going to let us have this meeting, but it's an.
Well, we're not really a meeting. We're more
This
of a
isn't a meeting.
Yeah, so
So it's up to Jim.
I know you guys want to support us. So the question is, how do we start?
Well,
I'll talk-
that's really a long discussion.
Yeah, I've worked on it for the better part of 6 years. And you probably have forgotten now, but I tried to help you in the same manner. And I'll talk to you offline if that's okay, Mary.
Okay, that if it is money that we can allocate for a park, if we could work to try and get, and that this committee can help us with, let's get on the agenda next time and get an official game plan and have you help us. You know, that we've been sitting there, our park's been there for 25 years. We weren't against being advocated for either. So Jesse Owens was advocated for by this committee. Also, I have volunteered for this committee. If it needs to be put on the agenda to vote me on this committee, I would like to see that happen.
And you mentioned that to me, and so I'm going to put that on the August agenda,
Awesome.
if that's all right.
So can we also put how to go about us dealing with recs and parks and some of the allocated money? And because, you know, Jonah has talked about, you know, the value of the dog park and that it's worthwhile looking into. And Tara had something to say as a comment, which Tara, do you want to
comments on Jesse Owens'
comment?
Well, this is a comment on the dog park. The dog park supports a wide-ranging and diverse population throughout the San Fernando Valley. People who use this resource.
We can hardly hear.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Much better.
Okay. The dog park supports a wide-ranging and diverse population throughout the San Fernando Valley. People who use this resource include those coming from a wide area, from Woodland Hills to Chatsworth and Sylmar, Canoga Park, Studio City, North Hollywood, Tarzana, Encino, Reseda, and of course, Lake Balboa itself. The population who use the park encompasses a wide variety of individuals and families of all ethnicities, including seniors and those with disabilities. David, a man who is on the spectrum, walks 8 miles each way every day with his dog as his major social interaction. I am physically disabled, and the park is the only place I can go to give my pup the chance to run, as I have no yard. I'm looking to the council to be active advocates for the extensive need for funding for the improvements of our beautiful park.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. And Linda Gravani, you had your hand up.
I do. I just want to remind everyone that the Lake Balboa Neighborhood Council has 2 seats available for organizational representatives. We need to fill those seats. In 2023, June of 2023, we are going to have an election for new board members. At this moment in time, I don't know how many board members are going to return, but it is an elected position. We are unpaid. All of this time that we're spending is our own time. But I do want everyone to know that our job is to get you involved in the governance of our city. So if you would please voice your opinions with the council files, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Linda Schwerin.
Hand is lowered and I'm unmuted. We are on number 13, am I correct? Jesse Owens Park.
Well, I was only briefly mentioning that the groundbreaking was scheduled for that. Actually, we're on public comment number 14.
Okay, well then, Jim, if you could please confirm for the 14th the exact place and the time for the ribbon cutting
Oh,
so that,
that's not a ribbon cutting.
well,
That's a
I,
groundbreaking.
all right, excuse me, a groundbreaking. Can you please give me the exact place and the time for the groundbreaking for those who might love to attend?
Okay, well, that's at the Jesse Owens Mini Park, which is on White Oak, just south of Sherman Way. I'm sorry, I
Okay.
don't know the exact address.
Well, that's okay, but do you have any idea of the time that we might relate to other folks?
Yeah, we're talking about the crews that come out there and start physically working. And it's tentatively scheduled for July 14th. I don't, these folks, assuming they do come out on July 14th, again, it's tentatively scheduled. I would assume that they're going to be out there at about 7 o'clock in the morning and working all day.
And so we do not want to assume, but if any of us would like to be there to take advantage of this event, we might be there on the 14th, early in the morning. Am I correct?
Linda, I wouldn't recommend against coming there because you're going to be seeing a bunch of guys driving there with tractors and start tearing up the ground. That's not something much to see.
So what if I come with a shovel and a ribbon and just a cup of coffee?
I'm sorry, I couldn't tell you.
Okay, all right.
Listen, I'll drive by and message you. How's that?
That's close enough. Thanks very much, Jim. Bye.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else?
Yes.
I just have.
Miriam, I see your hand up.
Yes. I just have a quick question.
Yes.
I came on to help with putting on events at the park for adoption events and holiday events, like we did in the past for Mike Scholl, who didn't require that we had permits. We understand that now permits are required, but we don't know who to contact to get a permit. So is that something that you can look into and get back to Miriam about?
Is Jonah still here? Can you answer that? Jonah or Viana, can you answer that? Because I can't.
We will get the contact. We have a contact at Rec and Parks, and we can help you all with someone to reach out to for special events. We'll
Absolutely.
email Miriam that contact.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
And Stacy, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking, because I've seen a lot of people are very excited and want to go out and show support for this project at Jesse Owens Park. And I'm totally on board with that too. But I also get the tension, between, like, these are workers that are here to work. So I was thinking of maybe suggesting a way to show your appreciation would be like, if people could take turns, like midday, different days of the week, dropping off a case of water for them, for the workers. I mean, that's a way to show practical appreciation, so that's all, just a suggestion.
That's a wonderful idea, Stacy. Thank you. Actually, I had kind of thought about that on the side, but I appreciate you bringing that up. Katie.
I was just gonna say that I'll probably head down to the park on Thursday morning just to see who's there and maybe say hello and thank you and possibly bring water or cookies or hugs. So if you're there around 8 or 9, you could get a hug or water and jump up and down with me on the sidelines, letting people work, of course.
Our next meeting, our next Rec and Park meeting will be Tuesday, August 9th. It's the second Tuesday of August. I haven't made the agenda up for that. If you want to send me any ideas, I have some ideas, but if anybody has any ideas to send, want to send them to me, I can start working on that. And I appreciate your help with that. And if no one else has anything else, we'll adjourn the meeting and thank you very much.
Jim, we have someone that wants to call in, but I don't even know if anybody knows how to do that.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that.
Pardon me?
She wants you to show pictures of the gaps.
Oh, well. She can make a statement, but
We'll figure that out.
yeah, we'll figure it out later. All right. Next time.
Thank you.
I'll try, and I promise I'll try to be better with the number on the agenda next time. I apologize a million times over. Looks, I'm learning on this. Okay, I'm learning, and I'm an old man. I learn slow. I lost my brain cells a long time ago.
Oh,
That's okay. We appreciate
we
it.
appreciate you, Jill. No worries.
Thank you, Jim. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.